It's a pleasure to welcome you to this month's webinar. This is the month of March. We are continuing our focus on the tax regime in Barbados and its implications for small firms. You would recall that we started our conversation last month, the month of February, in our February webinar, when we looked at the tax rate of 5.5% for the small business sector. And as we're getting ready for our filing, our personal income tax, as well as those who would file corporation tax in March, we felt it is important that we continue our conversation on tax administration, the overall tax regime. I'll tell you this, I mean, I've been an administrator now for about 20 years, and I have not seen so much interest in the topic of taxation as I'm seeing in this season we're in 2023, 2024, which I think augurs well. It is a good thing for all stakeholders that there's so much interest in our business community being compliant, understanding what they have to do, seeking out information, participating, etc. So I am really excited about the kind of response that we're seeing to these topics, as every month we try to have an engaging conversation with our members. We try to bring experts in particular areas, particular fields, as we help our small business community to do better business. So good morning again to all, one and all. Thanks so much for agreeing to our invitation and to being a part of our session for the next hour. So those of you who may not know, just quickly, let me do a little housekeeping to let you know that this is a part of our members information session, our educational series, where each month we have a webinar, as I said, on a topic of interest to the small business community. And we invite you to spend just an hour with us, and with your support, we are hopeful that we can have you just for that short period of time. All of our sessions are recorded. All of our sessions are recorded. So even now, there are those who will join on our Facebook page, but our sessions will be also available on our YouTube channel, that in the event you miss any aspect of it, don't worry. Fear not, you can always go back and you can watch it on YouTube. And for members, you know that we're going to be sending you the link in our email blast tomorrow anyway, to remind you of the session and invite you to join in the event that you missed any aspect of it. And then at the end of the session, we're going to ask you to stay on for an extra 5 minutes and complete a very short evaluation tool. This is just about 4 or 5 questions on the session today, because it helps us as we plan our webinars. It helps us as we determine the topics that we're going to bring if we get your feedback. So please stay on and complete that evaluation tool at the end of our session today. So again, welcome. We're glad to have you with us for this month's webinar. Today, we're talking about the tax administration system and navigating this system, removing all of the cobweb, as it were, and making it very easy for our members, for our businesses to understand how to complete their filing, have the knowledge necessary to make sure that, yes, they're compliant, they're staying within the parameters of the laws of Barbados relative to their responsibility in paying their taxes. Taxes are due. Even Jesus, when he was asked about that, said to his disciples, look, go on a particular fish and you're going to see all the money that is needed there to pay our taxes to Caesar. Because even back then, they understood the significance and the importance of being compliant. So today we have the best person, I believe, to address this topic for us, the Revenue Commissioner, the Barbados Revenue Authority, and she has a small team with her who I'm sure will have the opportunity to engage us as we go forward in our session today. The Revenue Commissioner is no stranger to us, but according to our standard here, we're going to, read a very short bio of Louisa Lewis-Ward so that persons on the call may have a little bit more information than what you know already about our presenter today. So, Mrs. Ward, yes, she's the Revenue Commissioner of the Barbados Revenue Authority. She has over 2 decades of professional experience under her belt. And prior to joining the authority, she was head tax partner with KPMG. And prior to that, a tax partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers. She has advised on domestic, regional, and international tax and corporate secretarial matters in the financial services, retail, tourism, real estate arenas as well, and adding substantial value to her clients' businesses in the areas of banking, telecommunications, hospitality, manufacturing, insurance, and finance. She holds a degree in finance and accounting from the University of Salford, UK, and a master's in accounting with emphasis on taxation from the University of Florida in Gainesville, USA. She's a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants and a practicing member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in both Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. So, from that very short introduction, you'll agree that our presenter today is very competent to address our topic for us on navigating the tax administration system. So, I'm going to ask members, colleagues, to please pay attention, take your notes. As per usual, after the presentation, we'll have an engaging session in our Q&A, our question and answer segment. And at that time, again, we use the chat feature on our Zoom platform. So you're not going to be unmuted. You will have the opportunity to post your questions in the chat. There are many colleagues here from the BRA who we're inviting to review the chat as we go along, see the questions that are being posted, so that when we come to the Q&A segment, we'll be able to have that engaging conversation with our members and our colleagues. So without any further ado, let's get to it then. And let's welcome Mrs. Louisa Lewis-Ward to share with us on this very critical topic. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Dr. Holden. Thank you so much for having the Barbados Revenue Authority here with you today.
Welcome.
Exciting presentations. I know we have just an hour, and there are a number of things that we'd like to share with you. So welcome to everyone who's listening in this morning. Of course, the filing season is coming up, and people have to make sure that their houses are in order to do that. And the team here will help you and guide you through a bit of that today. I wanted to take 5 minutes maybe to Dr. Holder to tell you a bit about the authority so that people understand where we're coming from and a bit of our agenda. And then we'll move on to Mr. Gooding is going to put up, I know we didn't talk corporate tax and personal tax, but there's also land tax that's very important to us as well. As people, and in addition to small businesses looking to create wealth, I think the ownership of property is important. And in so doing, we've made those systems as well very easy to use. So we'll take 5 minutes to look at the land tax platform. We'll take 5 minutes to look at the Revenue Authority overall. And then we'll move into the tax administration system, TAMIS, and take a look at some of the recent updates. Indeed, exciting times to be a tax practitioner. Exciting times within the budgets of the last couple of days. There are a number of concessions, tax credits that were made available. And for the Small Business Association in particular, as you look ahead to the 5.5% tax rate, and how you apply for that will be important as well. So let's get going, and I'll just show a couple slides, and we'll move through our presentations. So the Barbados Revenue Authority really is broken down into 5 different areas. One of those areas is particularly public facing, and you'll see the individuals associated with the Tax Operations Department quite often in your interactions with the authority. Some of the other areas you may not see unless you have an existing liability to the organization, or if there's a legal matter, you may see the Office of the General Counsel. If there's a tribunal matter. And then some of our departments are particularly insular in that they support the rest of the operation. So the IT department, the finance department, internal audit and enterprise risk, those areas are more on the inside, and you may not have as much interaction with them. This is the bulk of what you will see when you approach the authority. The Tax Operations Department is headed by a director, as is the Tax Audit and Compliance Department. When you touch the cashier centers or the customer service operations or the returns filing and processing, you will be touching the Tax Operations Division within the authority. Where you're looking at collections, if you have not paid on time or filed on time, where you're looking at outstanding amounts owed to the organization, you'll be looking at our Tax Collections Division, or in some cases, our Enforcement Division. And the enforcement team deals with a lot of the gaming activities, what we call high net worth and politically exposed people, bankruptcy and insolvency. And if there's a particularly difficult collections matter, it may move out of the Collections Division into enforcement. And then you have tax audit, which many small businesses may face as well. The audit department will come in and ask to see your books and records to determine whether your filing has been done correctly. What the organization is focused on is ensuring that within the green section, the Tax Operations Department, you do as much as possible so that you never really see the Tax Audit and Compliance Division. And that's initiatives like you're having us here, Dr. Holder, are meant to focus on the operational side of the organization. The taxes that we collect are quite a few. Income tax, corporate tax are the ones that are familiar to you, land tax, but there are lots of small ones: insurance premium tax, rent registrations, room rate levies. There are lots of little ones as well that we collect. The bulk of our revenue, and the authority collects somewhere around $1.9 billion a year on behalf of the government of Barbados, comes out of the income tax, corporate tax, land tax, and value-added taxes. We have a strategy within the organization by which we try to align ourselves with the overall strategy of the government of Barbados, looking at stabilization, growth, and transformation within our society. So you'll see that when we frame out the organization, we not only align ourselves with what we think we need to do, but we align ourselves with the government strategy as a whole. And when we look at our strategic goals, they surround our corporate governance and our organizational structure and making sure that that is in order. They surround voluntary compliance within the tax operations team. And that's the engagement we have here today, making sure that you can file on time and pay on time in the easiest way possible. And then we look at the audit and compliance team, as we said before, for voluntary compliance as well. We want to deliver through a customer-centric focus, and our customer service charter, which you'll find online, tells you some of the timelines in which business should be done with the organization, with the authority. And of course, to buffer it all, our people, our processes, and the technology that we have to have in place as well. Some of the things that we've done in the last year, we've launched our own, what we call BRA People platform, where our people can come online and do all of their leave applications, vacation, performance evaluation, check in, check out. All of that can now be done electronically. So we're highly electronic, and there are very few things that we're still doing that are paper-based. BRA Health was launched, our health plan for the organization as a whole. And that helps our teams to be able to afford the healthcare that we need. So that's an important one internally. We've launched some dashboards that are being used for finance purposes by the Ministry of Finance and ourselves. Our compliance risk management dashboard means that in the future, you will be able to go on and look at customs, national insurance, and ourselves, and you'll be able to see what the risk rating of an individual is. So Louisa Ward may not have paid a particular tax, so her rating goes up a little bit, may not have paid VAT, rating goes up again, may not have paid national insurance. And so we begin to form a collective view of each taxpayer that helps us to manage collections and activities with you. We've particularly focused on collections over the last 12 months. I'm sure you've heard lots of the land auctions that have taken place in the public, but the government is owed somewhere around $1.8 billion. And so we've spent a year or two analyzing the balances that we have within the system. And you'll see lots of initiatives in the upcoming months around collections and trying to make sure that people have paid their obligations to the government of Barbados. We've launched the land tax system. You'll see a little bit about that in a minute. And the cybersecurity reviews, we're very cognizant of the exposure of systems. We can see breaches in many large organizations across the globe. So we watch ours as well to make sure that from a cyber aspect, we're informed. As you look at the Small Business Association in particular and your membership, we see within our systems maybe about 5,000 people, businesses who will be able to benefit from the 5.5% tax rate once they are registered small businesses under the legislation. And so that'll be an important one. What we have done, we've started to work with the Ministry of Energy and Business, and they will launch a platform which allows you to very easily go on and apply to be registered as a small business with the government of Barbados so that you can then benefit from the 5.5% tax rate. So that's an important one as well. Areas for improvement, enhancing collections and a customer focus, I think are two areas for improvement as we look ahead into the upcoming year. We want to make sure that the service that we deliver is adequate, that it's caring, because we have to be mindful of how we treat each other, and that you can benefit from your interactions with the Revenue Authority. So that's just a little overview of the authority in itself, Dr. Holder, and we'll move on now. I know we're moving quickly so that we can do questions as well. We'll move on now to Raymar Gooding, who'll do a small overview with me on the land tax platform.
Good morning. Allow me to share the screen, please.
All right, when we get Raymar sorted, Louisa, just give us in the background as well any other person that may be doing this so that we can get them in a position that they can share so as not to
Sure.
delay the
Junior
process.
Doughton will be the other person.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you. Great. So the authority launched last land tax cycle 23-24, our online platform, and it's an area where you can go on, you can see all of your land tax bills that have existed since you've owned your property. You can access all of your details. Upcoming for this cycle, you'll be able to apply for your land tax clearance certificates and download those and use them if the bank needs them or if a financial institution needs them. You'll be able to provide that and just go straight online and access it once your accounts are up to date. So the system is very, very easy to use. You go to bill.bra.gov.bb and you simply log in. Once you have logged into your account, this is what the dashboard looks like. It's very simple. It tells you the location of your property, who the owners are, and the period that you're looking at. And then it tells you, it shows you that the box in red or in green, if you're in arrears with your land tax or if you're current. It gives you a view of your current bill. And then you can go on and make a payment on your bill. And here you can see all the bills that you've ever paid and the amounts, whether you've paid any penalties, interest, etc. So it takes you straight through to a payment cycle with the bill. You can make payments in part. So if your bill was $1,193, you could pay $50 every month onto your bill, or you could pay the lump sum. What we're working on for the next period, not this one, but the 26-27 period, is to see if the banking system will allow you to automate a direct deposit into the platform, so that you can then manage your land tax obligations that way. So that's what the system looks like. You can register one or more properties as well. So you can move between properties. You'll see on the side Arthur's Seat and 11 Farmers St. Thomas. You can go on to either of your properties and see what your balances are. So this one, Raymar's in good standing on, the other one, so it goes green on the side, and you can tell that your obligations have been met. There are a number of forms that you can complete here as well. The pensioners rebate form is available. The agricultural rebate form is also there, and the hotel and villa rebate form, and the ministerial waiver. So if you are in arrears of land tax, the government has had a project on for the last 2 or 3 years now, where if you apply for a waiver of the penalties and interest, if you're bringing your account up to date within a 12-month, a 36-month, and a 60-month cycle, then you get an exemption from some of the interest. So they'll waive part of or all of the interest. So if you owed $5,000 in land tax and $10,000 in interest, and you paid your obligation of $5,000 over a 12-month cycle, you would be able to have a waiver of the penalties and interest. So we actually have a platform that integrates with the Ministry of Finance, and the minister will make his determination in that regard. You can also object here to a valuation that has been laid on a particular property. So we'll add to this in the upcoming cycle. You'll see land tax clearance form. There will be a small fee associated with accessing the form itself, so that we can recover some of the money of doing all of this automation. We treat ourselves very much like a business in that regard. So you'll see, so the land tax platform is very, very simple, very easy to use. And we look forward to, we have a very large number of people who signed on last year. And we look forward to doubling that number this year. Once we get to a critical mass of about 60%, we will try to stop sending out hard copy bills, of which maybe 25% are returned to us, and they sit in boxes. So there's really no point in keeping that mode of operation for too much longer. So that's land tax, Dr. Holder, and we will move on now to the changes for income tax with Mr. Junior Doughton.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, morning,
We can
Mr.
hear you.
Doughton.
Maybe not well, but we can hear you. So maybe speak up.
Okay. And so as the Revenue Commissioner said, my task this morning is to take you through the updates in the TAMIS system, and also just some updates as far as the taxes are concerned, some of the obligations that you would need to meet. So we're going to start firstly with the TAMIS updates. The first update relates to the personal income tax return for 2023, income year 2023, where the personal allowance for the pensioners have been increased from 40,000 to 45,000. Additionally, there's a new payment option in TAMIS. It's named Pay with Visa and MasterCard. This now allows you to pay your taxes with international cards, not just the domestic cards. You can now pay your taxes with international cards. The Easy Pay option remains, but we also add this other option, which gives you a wider range of options as far as paying your taxes. The personal income tax return for income year 2023 is now available for filing. But I would like to, at this point, ask the business owners to ensure that they have uploaded all 12 returns to the PAYE for the employees, so that the employees will be able to file accurate returns. I know that sometimes you don't file the return every month. We have allowed the system to be configured so that you can file those returns every month. And the reason for that is that it makes it easier, much easier for your employees when they go onto the system and they review your monthly uploads. If there are any issues, let's say there's an issue in February 2023, and they only saw that issue in February 2024. That means that you have to go back and amend. An issue came from February right down to December. You don't have to go back and amend all of those returns from February to December. Whereas if you're uploading them monthly, that person will highlight that at that point, and the necessary changes will be made. And so it would eliminate the domino effect. So we encourage that you file those returns every month. In reference to the refunds, effective April 1st, 2023, we have moved away from paying refunds via checks. All refunds now are paid by direct deposit. That's VAT, corporation tax, personal income tax, reverse tax credits. Whatever refunds that are paid by the Revenue Authority are now paid by direct deposit. This makes it much easier, much faster, much cleaner. If we have 45,000 refunds claim in a year, imagine the number of checks we have to pay to print if we have to pay by checks. Doing direct deposits allow us to be able to process these refunds more efficiently and get them to you in a more speedy manner. So with that being said, we encourage businesses and individuals to make sure that they update their information, their bank information in the TAMIS system. So to update your banking information, you just log on to your TAMIS account. You go to update details. And the first link where it says, I wish to update my address, phone, and email or bank details. You click on that one. You scroll down till you see the option for bank details. Once you're there, you enter the name of the account holder. You select your bank and you select your branch. Once you've selected your bank and your branch, TAMIS automatically, where you see account number, it automatically pre-populates the bank number. In this case, First Caribbean is 10010, and Broad Street, the transit number for that is 09606. Now from here, all you need to do is enter your banking account information. What has been happening is that we find that taxpayers, both businesses and individuals, would come here where you have the account number, and they will start with 01009 606. and then add the account information onto that. Now, the ACH only captures, I think, the first 13 digits, or first 13 characters, I should say. So once you go past that, then the ACH is only going to take the first 13, and if your first 13 is comprised of 8 numbers that make up between your bank and your branch, then we are going to get that deposit come back to us saying incorrect bank account information. I must add that we receive every month, every filing season, a vast number of return deposits. So then we have to then go create a file to do those refunds over again. So you hear a person say we have not received our refunds. It's not that we have not processed them and sent them, but because of incorrect banking information, they have been returned to us. And we have to wait until the bank sends back the correspondence, highlighting, identify those persons to whom they're returning, or for whom they're returning the deposits. Then we can proceed from there to repay those refunds. So, as I said, we move away from paying by checks. So we want the businesses, individuals, sole traders, companies, to please log on to TAMIS and update your banking information. And make sure that your bank information that you upload or update is the correct information also. Because we don't need that. We send your refunds and then the bank return them to us and we are going wrong in circles. So I want to implore that we make sure that we have the correct information uploaded in TAMIS. Taxpayers' obligations. Taxpayers are required to comply with certain obligations, to register the Barbados Revenue Authority, to file returns and provide accurate information on income, transactions, and relevant activities, to report correctly and completely, to pay the amount of tax due on time and in accordance with the law. In taxpayers' rights, they have the right to a fair system administered in an even-handed manner, privacy and confidentiality of the information, appeal to an independent tribunal against any assessments from the authority. The requirements for the partnerships. The senior partners must ensure that all statutory requirements are met, register with the BRA, maintain proper books and records, file a divided return, whether or not profits are made, file a value-added tax return where applicable. Self-employed persons must maintain proper books and records of all business transactions, must keep a separate bank account for all businesses, must register with the BRA for all applicable taxes, and must file tax returns whether or not a profit was made. Register for taxes and filing. Taxpayers registration for self-employed or sole traders, the documents required. If there's just a self-employed person has no business name, we have no requirements as far as documents is concerned. Where is a business name? You need a certificate of registration application from KIPO. Where a self-employed person or sole trader has a TIN prior to becoming self-employed, there's no need to apply for additional TIN. We have found that persons were employed, then they go into business, and then they try to do a new registration to have a TIN for the business. Once you're a sole trader, the TIN that you had when you were employed will be used as your TIN going forward. It's only when you become incorporated, then that changes, or if you become a partnership, that TIN changes. But once you remain an individual sole trader, the TIN that you had before would be the TIN that you use. Where the person wants to add a trader name, just log on to TAMIS and you make a change he is requiring that trading name to be added to your TIN. And once you do that, you must provide us with the certificate of registration and application for registration from KIPO as supporting documents. For partnerships, where there are more than one individual listed on the application for registration from KIPO, they're required to register as a partnership. The documents required are the certificate of registration and application for registration from KIPO. For incorporated entities, documents required, all incorporation documents except the bylaws. You don't need bylaws, and these are the list of the documents here: the articles, certificate of incorporation, notice of address, notice of directors, name search, and any other incorporation documents such as change names. You have the amendments to the names, change of directors, you have those amendments form. I know the directors are Form 9, and I know you normally have a Form 9A ready to change. For local directors, you need to provide the TAMIS number or the TINs for those local directors. For the non-nationals, you need the bio page of the passport, and all these will be uploaded with the application once the application is being made. So what is tax compliance? Tax compliance is the degree to which the taxpayer complies with the tax rules of his or her country. Declaring all assessable income, filing tax returns, and paying associated taxes with that. Where you fail to comply, then that becomes an issue of non-compliance. And the importance of compliance, we know, is to make sure we're able to, government will provide particular services to the country. And the benefits of being compliant, you basically avoid all the penalties, prosecutions, those different things that would come with non-compliance. The requirement to file based on Section 52 of the Income Tax Act. It says every company or every person who carries on business in income year, whether or not an assessable income has been derived by that person in that income year, shall deliver a return basically to the commissioner. That's Section 52 of the Income Tax Act. And then you have Section 34 of the Value Tax Act, again, requirement to register for your taxes. You must be reminded, I know that we are talking to Small Business Association right now, but the threshold for VAT is 200,000. But you can be registered as a small supplier if you're not making that amount. The tax obligations depends on the type of entity or business that you have. You have the corporation tax, the withholding tax, you have the product development levy, the value tax, the room rate levy, PAYE and personal income tax. All of these are the obligations that you have when you register in the TAMIS system. To determine the filing process, you have to know what your fiscal year end is. For sole traders and partnerships, their year end is normally 31st of December. Corporations, they have between January and September. Those persons will file the 15th of March. Those persons from October to December, they file June 15th. Again, part of your filing, you know that the return is basically an income and expense statement. You have your income, you have your expenses, then you have your net income, and then it determines your taxable income, and then determines whether you pay or not.
All right, Mr. Dalton, we want to get to our Q&A segment. We already have several questions coming in on the chat. So if you want to maybe give us a final one or two slides that relates to our audience here. We'd appreciate that so we can get into our discussion.
No problem. I just try to move as fast as I can, sorry.
I think perhaps an important one is the upcoming tax rates. From January 1, 2024, you'll have new rates for small businesses at the 5.5% where your gross income exceeds $2 million, and you'll have to be registered as a small business through the Ministry of Energy and Business as well. And I know discussions are ongoing as to the format of that. So we're going to try to make it easy, as we said before, for that registration to take place. Yes, of course, we'll share the slides that are here today so you can see some of the other areas that Mr. Dottin was going to touch on. So I'll just let you close out, sir. Mike.
Okay, thank you, RC. Just one, as RC was saying, just one other slide that in reference to the levies. The room rate levy, again, is based on the classes of the hotels, the rooms. They have the room rate per room per night. And the product development levy, one of the things that of concern as far as the product development levy is concerned is the reporting of it. It's recognized that sometimes when persons are reporting it, when they put the information at line 140 of the VAT return, they included the levy at that point. So once you include the levy at that point, and it calculates down, it shows as 5% because it's doubling up. When you first enter at line 140, you're not supposed to include the levy amount. You just do the value plus the VAT, and then the system calculates the levy amount at a different line at 355 by the return. I'll close out on that point.
All right. Okay. Thank you then. For those who may not be aware, yes, all of the PowerPoint presentations are made available so that persons can review at their leisure and pleasure. Commissioner, I heard you mention in excess of 2 million. I believe you meant under 2 million or up to 2 million?
Up to 2 million, yes. Thank you.
Up to 2 million. All right, so the remaining 15 minutes that we have, if we can engage our CEO and your team, really appreciate that, because we have several questions here and I don't want that we close out our session and members don't get the opportunity to have their queries addressed. The most important thing I think at this time is the new rate for small firms. And you did mention that the Ministry of Energy and Business has identified a platform that firms can register to become an approved small business. Is that what I gather?
Yes, we're working with them to automate the entire registration process. So that I'm sure they'll come to you for the demos so that you can see those and give some feedback on them as well, and determine how you interact with them in that regard. But we have made good progress, and we will look to demo with them in the next week or so. So we'll have that to show to you as well.
Okay, so we'll await that submission. Members of the association on the call, we know our position and we know the issues we've been having with that program. So we'll wait to see what is the new regime that the ministry will be introducing. If you can, maybe turn your attention to the chat for a moment. We have a question here about the $500 penalty. Are you aware of this $500 penalty? This one seems to have been sent to me directly. So let me read it quickly. Why is it that up to now you cannot have the $500 penalty removed when TAMIS had now started, or when TAMIS was started? It seemed that this provision was there. Are you aware of this, RC, that you can give a comment?
I'm afraid I wasn't around then, but I do know that there are instances within the system when there was either an extension of a filing deadline or in some cases, like for the public service where some information wasn't uploaded on time, extensions have been provided. The system is very rigid in its form. We try not to do things within the system one by one. And so the developers have been working to try to en masse. You can imagine you think you're the only one who needs their $500 removed, but we have 20,000 of those or 40,000 of those that need to be removed. So we have to do it in an automated manner, and it has proven challenging for the development team. But we do know those balances, and they are certainly factored out of any calculations of obligations of people. We will look in the next upcoming fiscal period to revamping the automation within the system. TAMIS in itself is now 7 years old. The public has seen the challenges with it. This $500 penalty is also a challenge within the system. And therefore we'll look to make some tweaks and some big changes to the system to ensure that it becomes fit for purpose.
Right, and while you're doing that, I have a question here from another member. Last year, the filing the credit card system was not allowing for thousands of dollars to be paid. So this is a member who tried to pay using a credit card, but the system was not allowing that, and they had to contact their bank and give them the amount and have that cleared. So that's another area that you may want to look at when you review the system.
And we recognize that issue. We've tried to put in place a payment platform that will allow those payments to be made this year. So we now, as Mr. Doughton said, we have a BRA Pay platform, and we also have Easy Pay that you can use as well. So the systems are quite a bit more robust this year than they were last cycle.
Okay, not that Mr. Doughton's information wasn't exciting and interesting, but we are aware of the time constraints that we have. So maybe we may need to get Mr. Doughton to spend a full hour with us to go through all of that information, because he does have quite a bit there that he wanted to share. But going back to your presentation, Revenue Commissioner, you made a point about some sort of rating system that you're going to be introducing. Obviously, we're interested in that. I already have a question here, and I took note of it. So you're saying that you guys are going to launch a platform that is going to rate us as taxpayers?
We will look from a compliance risk aspect. It's not so much as a rating of a taxpayer as us wanting to make sure that when we do a selection for audit, we're selecting the right people to audit, because we only have a certain amount of manpower at the authority, and therefore who we select for audit is important. We don't want to come to you, Dr. Holder, 2 and 3 years in a row and audit the same entity that you have 3 years in a row. And the system is meant to give us a better selection for audit purposes. So it's not so much a rating of you as a tool that the audit teams will be using. I'm afraid it's not as exciting as that.
Oh, I see. That sounds like those who are problem payers are going to be singled out. Anyhow,
it may be filing too that you have issues with. It may be filings as well, people who have issues with that.
Okay. Not so sure if you can see, I have a question here from several others, and the questions have been sent to everyone, so you should be able to see it. If you begin from Don Williams and come down, right? Because that is sent to everyone. The first couple of questions were sent to me directly. But from Don right down, if you can maybe begin to address.
Okay, all right,
they were sent to everyone. So Don Williams.
So Don is asking about the ability to offset one tax against another or one period against another within the filing systems. It can't be done so easily across tax types, because of course each piece of legislation stands on its own, and we have to apply the provisions of that legislation individually. But we are looking to make some changes that will allow that kind of offsetting to take place. Some people prefer to get their refund for VAT and then go and pay their corporation tax, and that is their right to do. So what she's speaking of perhaps is the ability to offset my February refund against my April payable balance.
Actually, we've had quite a few questions along this particular line, and trust me, it wasn't across different types of taxes. It was within that same tax. So if it is that it is VAT, for example, and the firm owes a VAT refund, but you know, a VAT payment, sorry, but the BRA owes that said for a VAT refund from an earlier period, can there have been an offset of the amount?
The VAT system will do that offset. It won't even let us pay if you owe a balance. The system will block the payment from taking place. If there's an outstanding return or a liability, it won't even show up for us to see to pay. It has to be, the account has to be clean enough and the net balance has to be a refund. So it's not as functional as you think it could be.
So it is.
But we
It is
look
the
ahead.
system.
We look ahead to
Yeah.
the new system that will allow us to do some of that.
Right. Okay. We heard earlier in the presentation that taxpayers owe government $1.8 billion. Wow, that's a lot of money. I'm not so sure how many of those are small businesses. I doubt very much that is significant. It's material. I doubt very much that it is material. There's a lot of big businesses that owe you guys money, man, not small firms.
And
you
maybe
know,
when you move to the 5.5% rate and you have a lot more people registered as small businesses within the system, we can come and do the analysis with you to determine.
But there was a question here. I raised that because someone was there. Angela Knight actually was querying, but I'm not so sure you're gonna break that down, but she was querying that.
Goes back to about 2000. I believe there was an amendment that waived the obligations up to 2000 in our systems. So our systems go back as far as 1967 obligations, but everything from there to 2000 was waived. So we look at 2000 going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we look at that.
So a few more before we hit the 12 o'clock button. So when can a business expect to have obligations that were added by BRA removed, to which they don't apply after cancellation, request suspension is made? Any idea?
And the operations team is on here listening to your questions as well. And there is a project ongoing to make those changes within the system. If they cannot be done en masse, we then set up project teams to go in and do them individually. So the teams have been working on those kinds of cleanup exercises, particularly if we want to revamp, move to a TAMIS 2.0 or move to a new system. Then you want to move with clean data as well. So there's a heavy internal focus on systems cleanup at this point in time. I think Dr. Holder as well, there were a number of, in addition to the 5.5%, there were a lot of measures raised in the budget around credits. So we should take a look at those at another time, perhaps, and see how they could be valuable to the small business community, because there were quite a few mentioned, I think, that will be of relevance there.
Are you talking about concessions?
Not the concessionary part, the tax credits in particular.
Oh, the tax credits.
The concessions seem to be on a bigger scale with bigger numbers. But the tax credits are there. The patent intellectual property box where you do innovation, the digitization of your information and technological advancement. If there are tools that can be used, there are credits available for those kinds of things as well.
Right. Okay. All right. I have to go back. I promised to go back and read the presentation. It was quite a bit, in 4 hours and 22 minutes. So it was quite a bit to digest. Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting one from Matthew, who is querying if I manage Airbnb for clients and the funds pass through my bank account, then pass on to them, do I still have to pay the 10% on those funds passing through my account?
Matthew, perhaps give us a call and we can give you some advice there. It's usually, you're talking about what they refer to as B2B and B2C transactions, whether you're business to the consumer direct, or you're going through an intermediary. And so the obligations vary when you're talking about those kinds of transactions. Usually the whoever is making the supply, it's a taxable supply, and the withholding takes place at that point, but we can certainly have a discussion.
Right, okay. I know you did mention some challenges with the TAMIS system. It's over 7 years now and it needs to be reviewed. But I have a question here from Julian, who's querying, okay, so you discontinued checks together. You said you discontinued checks, the issuance of checks as refunds.
What we
But-
do is if we get to a point where we see there are too many taxpayers who have not put their banking details, we will do a check push out, because we don't want to keep the money on account as well. The government gives a certain amount of money each time to pay the refunds. So we want to make sure they're done. But the easiest form is to do them by direct transfer.
Right, because he's asking in the event that there was a check, if it could
Yeah.
have been used to offset a liability that the business may have with the BIA. That's how sophisticated the system is.
He doesn't want to cash the check in his bank account. He
Doesn't want to
give it
cash the
back.
check. No. What are your thoughts on that one?
Let's have a conversation, Mr. Eiffel, around that one.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's get the last two questions if you don't mind. One from Vadis. Can you see Vadis Agar's question? It's a very, very good one.
Yes.
Can you see that, Revenue Commissioner?
Yes. What is the resolution regarding obligations that our businesses don't qualify for? We were instructed to request cancellation for those obligations, which we did. However, we couldn't obtain a tax clearance unless we filed those same obligations, resulting in penalties and interest. How do we address the issue? If there, so I'm assuming that a registration was done and you registered for VAT, PAYE, etc. You have no PAYE obligations and you want that removed. The operations team should be able to remove that obligation if you write into us. We'll ask that you write something and email it to us, a letter, or you write us an email, and we will have the account tidied up so that the clearance can be issued. But if you have no obligation, then the clearance should be made available to you.
Okay. All right. And I'm not so sure if you're seeing this last question, if you can take this in from
Okay.
Anderson Downs. Anderson Downs, this is a new one. At the
Yes.
bottom, can you see that one? If you can get a comment on that.
Yeah. Legislatively, you also have to, Mr. Downs, make sure that it can be done. The legislation has to say that I can't just take your funds and offset them willy-nilly across land tax, VAT, corporate tax. So legislation has to be in place to do it, and then the system has to be able to do it. And the system doesn't do that at the moment, no.
Oh, okay. All right. And remember, I said, colleagues, that we're going to put that feedback form in the chat. We're going to go ahead and do that now and ask you to please click on that link and give us your feedback on our session today. So while I have another 2 minutes, I'm going to ask if there's another burning question from the audience. We had over 70 persons on the call. We want for you to go ahead now and post that. So while we have the Revenue Commissioner here, it's not every time, it's not every month that we have the RC with us. And members of her team, Mr. Gooden and Dottin, are still on the call. So here is your opportunity to ask. We've had a session last month where there were lots of questions around the BRA and the operations there. So please don't go off with that question. Let us give the professionals here the opportunity to respond. But rest assured,
there's an
Sorry?
interesting one, Dr. Holder,
Yes.
are there any plans to introduce tax farming under the BRA to assist small farmers? Remember, the
Right.
authority is a collections agency. So we don't set the tax policy, we implement and administrate once the policy is set. But I think that's an interesting topic of tax farming. So maybe we can look into it a little more, and you can help us build that out.
Yeah. Of course, for a fee, because they heard you say that the BIA is charging a fee. A persons who want to be compliant. Imagine that. You want to be
Not to be
compliant, the BIA is charging a
not
fee.
to be compliant. No, no, no.
You know, they want to pay their taxes and fill up their forms and all that, so they want to be compliant. So we charge a fee as well over here. But colleagues, we're winding down the session, but rest assured, we've recorded the presentation and the PowerPoint by Mr. Dottin is going to be included in tomorrow's email blast. So whereas you didn't get to go through all the slides, tomorrow's email blast, you will get the PowerPoint presentation included there so that you can go through, because Mr. Dottin had some very good, rather interesting calculations there as examples for you to, that you could get a better sense of what your tax liability would be depending on, income, etc. So we'll send out the PowerPoint presentation in our email blast tomorrow, and we're asking you, you can review it then. So RC and your team, we have a final question. If you can respond, please, to Vadis and Marlene, I'll appreciate that.
Okay. Marlene, what are the eligibility requirements to get a tax certificate? She means a tax clearance certificate.
That tax clearance certificate, yes.
Normally the requirement is that you're all paid up with your taxes. So people can apply for a tax clearance with regards to land taxes, or they may need a general clearance for the other tax types. And once you're up to date with your taxes, if you're not up to date and you still need a clearance for an institution, you can enter into an installment agreement with the authority, and we have a team that deals with those every day. So they'll set up an agreement with you so that you can get the clearance, so that you can continue to carry on business. So it's important that you have that option as well, because not everybody can pay everything all at the same time.
Okay.
I've put the number for the contact center on screen so that you can see that there as well. Reach out to the contact center. They have full access to the other teams, so they can find you the right person to assist with a particular query.
Yeah. Okay, and Vadis was asking, is there a simplified guide to the various tax rebates available that can be easily reviewed?
So once the budget cycle is complete and we've seen the debates, etc., going on, once that's complete, we can issue a summary that shows all of them. Some of the accounting firms have already put them out. If you Google them online, you'll see various ones that have them summarized from this particular budget. But we can certainly do an expanded summary with everything that has ever been granted, and put that on the website. Yes.
Right. Okay.
I'll take that as a takeaway to do.
Yes. Okay. Appreciate that. All right, colleagues, thanks so much. It's our first full session with the Barbados Revenue Authority, and I quite agree with the comments made by Angela Knight that we need the BRA back again. And yes, we will issue the invitation. You see, we're going to take what I call small bites, small bites at this process. So we don't want a long 2 or 3 hour session that obviously will bore us. And I've already lost a few members from the call, but we'll take it in small bites. So we've had the team on today for our March session, and hopefully we'll be able to get you back again and later in the year at the next tax cycle, as a reminder to members and providing some additional updates. So for sure, we will issue that invitation again.
Thank you.
So RC will give you the final words at this point.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Holder. Thank you to the Small Business Association for having us, to Mr. Dottin and the tax operations team who's on. Mr. Gooding for facilitating the presentations today. We certainly love the engagement. Look forward to continuing the type of dialogue that I see carried out here, because I think it's wonderful to have this kind of engagement with you. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you too for accepting the invitation and for coming on and for sharing, very, very critical information with us. Last webinar, we left with an agreement to that C word being compliance, that we're going to be, focused on that even as we go through this year, 2024, bringing all the information to our members to help with this process and being compliant. Yes, we know there's a cost of compliance. So where it's too costly, we will say so, and we will keep a little noise on that. But the overall, it is helping our members to be compliant and be, good law-abiding citizens, and obviously to grow their businesses. So we thank you, Revenue Commissioner. We thank members of your team, Mr. Goodin, Mr. Dottin, who shared as well in the conversation. Members of the SBA and colleagues, please remember we recorded this, that you can review it at your leisure, and we'll send you the PowerPoint presentation in our email blast tomorrow. Listen out for the April webinar. We're going to shift now from the conversation on tax, and we're going to get into something else from April. But we want to remind you of the dates that are coming up. We'll send you out some notices in the ensuing email blast to remind you to make sure that you complete your tax submissions in a timely manner. So once again, God bless you all. Thank you. Remember to go to the chat, click on the link, and complete the evaluation tool for us on today's session. So we'll see you on the next occasion. We are very pleased that you've shared a part of your Thursday morning and now into the afternoon with us. And we hope that this session was informative and will help in your management of your individual firm. So once again, thank you all. God bless you. Have a good day. Bye-bye for now. Thank you, RC, and your team.